Hey, this is Khan, you're watching Ninja Pulls, and we've been talking a lot about subclassing here on this channel and on Twitch, how everyone feels about it, the excitement, but also the fear that it could spoil parts of the game, at least temporarily, if released in its current state. Thank you for all your comments and opinions, even the offensive ones, some of which made me laugh. The passion for this game kinda blows my mind, so I wanted to make a short video on how best to communicate your passion and your concerns to the developers during PTS. If you're not up to speed on all this and want to know why players are worried, check out these videos from last week. It's all there. I actually took the time to go back through all of your comments and the official feedback thread on the forums to get a sense of where we're at as we enter week 2 of PTS. This took a long time, guys, and obviously there are a few takes which are ignorant of the true facts, or just abusive or dumb, but generally the feedback is sensible and the concerns are legit, that this could ruin PvP, make pure classes obsolete, and funnel even more players into a narrower meta. Even the devs have admitted that it's a big and scary thing to balance in just one PTS cycle, and that they'll have to keep working on it in future patches. Now, don't get me wrong, loads of players are coming round to the idea of subclassing after just 1 week, but the week 2 patch notes just arrived, and although they're somewhat reassuring in terms of the language used, they contain very few changes, and I've seen some people get worried about this. Actually, I'm not too concerned. Week 2 patch notes always tend to be a little light, mostly bug fixes and that sort of thing. The big adjustments tend to happen in weeks 3 and 4, and there's still time to influence that. The main criticisms that keep coming up are 1. This is not subclassing, it's multiclassing. I think that's probably right, but does it really matter? We're concerned about the health of the game, not with nomenclature. And now the cat's out of the bag, it would be quite a hassle to rename it, so if you're one of those people irritated by terminological inexactitude, you have my sympathy, but you may just have to take the L on this one. 2. The original, pure classes, as people are calling them, will be completely left in the dust by this feature. I think this one is beyond dispute. Whether you like the idea of subclassing or not, and whether you care about pure classes being left behind or not, I think everyone can see and agree that it is going to happen. Somebody who loves the way Sorcerer works right now, sure, they can continue to play it this way after update 46, but it looks like they'll be significantly weaker than a subclassed version. Now, not everyone has a problem with this, but most seem to agree that it would be a shame, and many are proposing that we get some sort of compensatory damage buff for not subclassing. For example, if you retain all 3 of your original class skill lines, you get a permanent buff, 10% extra damage or whatever. It doesn't have to be the same for all classes, and nor does it have to bring them up to par with the most powerful subclasses, just enough to keep them somewhat competitive and relevant. This is probably the most popular suggestion I've seen. It is repeated everywhere, often by people who really like the idea of subclassing, but see this as its major drawback. Maybe the devs already thought of this and decided against it, but if they see enough players care, they might reconsider. So if this is how you feel, speak up, especially if you've tried some of the new rotations with subclassing and you think you'd rather stick with the original, explain that to them. 3. Subclassing will ruin PvP. There are several strands to this idea: a loss of balance, giving more power to ball groups, which are already a problem and a reason for PvP is quitting. I literally know people who've left because of this. Concentrating the meta into a handful of setups, which will make Cyrodiil much more tiresome and repetitive. This is already something that can happen, and we don't know for sure that subclassing would make it worse, but it is a plausible argument. And finally, many are worried that that rock, paper, scissors aspect of PvP will be destroyed, where there was always a counter to every approach. This is how the game was designed to work, and so long as things were somewhat balanced, whatever you were up against, experienced PvPers could see what class and sets their opponent was using and use their knowledge to figure out where the chinks in the armor might be. This aspect of PvP, which players have honed for years, will mostly disappear with subclassing. Now, this last argument is tricky. Unlike the first, which is a fair complaint that's probably not going to have any effect, and the second, which is also a fair complaint that's much more likely to get the devs' attention, this third one is much more subjective. You could argue that subclassing is just a disruptive new addition to the game, and once the dust settles, PvP will be better in the long run. But the players don't seem quite so optimistic, and another very popular suggestion I've seen repeated a lot is to deactivate subclassing in PvP, or create a separate campaign without it, even if it's only temporary. I think the devs would be reluctant to split Cyrodiil even more, and they probably want subclassing active in Cyrodiil so they can gather as much data as possible and understand where the problems lie, what needs to be rebalanced, etc. Now, I actually asked the devs about this at the pre-reveal, and Matt Firor did point out that the Cyrodiil Champions tests only recently got started, and that part of what they're testing is the separation of PvE and PvP abilities. So they need to continue with that, and until they're done, we won't know exactly what shape PvP is going to take. Still, if you're worried that subclassing will have a negative impact on your PvP experience and the folks that you play with, even if it only lasts for a patch or two, go ahead and make that case. To be clear, these three are not my arguments, they're just the ones that I've seen repeated most often and most convincingly, summarized very briefly in this video. If you've got others to make, go ahead and make them. That's the point here, to make our case and hope that it's sufficiently convincing and widespread that the devs will factor it into their thinking. If you're one of those people who say, the devs won't listen, then just leave. Don't leave a comment, just leave. This video is not for you. For everyone else, the best way to leave feedback is probably as follows. Test your assumptions first. Go to PTS if you can, at least try the new system. That's what it's for. Maybe your concerns will be alleviated, problem solved. But if not, you can use the fact that you've actually been on the PTS, along with any data you've gathered, to make your case much more convincing. You can use the in-game customer support function. That way they can see it's actually from the PTS and it's immediately more credible. Hit F1 by default, click customer support, feedback bug, and I guess you could select impairs functionality, combat abilities and monsters, and active or passive abilities, then leave some short and specific feedback on why you think this will have a negative impact. And if you can't articulate why that would be, then you're starting to see the problem. The other way to do it, and a more free-form way to give feedback, and the one that Zos tends to recommend, is the official feedback thread on the forums. I've put a link in the description to the subclassing thread, and also to the main post containing links to all the other threads. At the top of the subclassing post, you'll see a short questionnaire, which you can also fill out if you've actually been on the PTS. Again, try to be specific and provide either examples or hard data. It's way more convincing and useful to the devs. And of course, don't be a dick. No matter how angry you might be, the devs don't want to hear about that, and nor should they. This is about making a case, not getting in touch with our feelings. Sure, if you're communicating with someone in person, then a bit of controlled emotion can be effective, but in written form, it just makes us look like idiots who shouldn't be taken seriously. Be dispassionate, specific, and respectful, and you'll be far more persuasive. There we go. Bit of a weird video, but this is an exceptional update, and I've never seen a community reaction quite like this one. Maybe update 35 was kinda similar, and actually that's a great example of the devs pulling a U-turn halfway through the PTS cycle because players took the time to gather data and show why the proposed changes were not good. So it has happened before. I hope that was a helpful little summary. Go do the feedback thing. No promises that the devs will do exactly what you hoped for, but it can't hurt to try. And with that, I will be back at you all in the next video, talking more about the new content coming with update 46. Come join us on Twitch for some PTS gameplay, the new trial, and of course the Oblivion remake, which should be announced shortly after this video goes live. Thank you to all our supporters, you are wonderful. To everyone else, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.